I have recently finished watching Life with Elizabeth, and now I'm going to talk about it. And this is unusual for me because usually I will review the first episode of a TV show so I can mark the beginning of my journey, share some initial thoughts and perhaps predictions for what I think might happen further down the line. And I couldn't do this with Life with Elizabeth because I could not find which episode was the first episode. IMDb, Wikipedia, DVD information, I think a couple of other sites, they all list the episodes in different orders. So if anybody knows for certain and can confirm which the first episode is, I'd love to know. But what I will say is that because of the nature of the show, and I'll talk more about this, it doesn't matter. You can watch these in pretty much any order, and it doesn't matter. And it's kind of for that reason that I didn't love this, despite my great love of Betty White. I took quite a while, a couple of months, to watch this, watching mainly an episode a day, an episode every couple of days. For me, it's not binge watchable. But if you're not the kind of person who likes to binge watch and you prefer to just watch things here and there, little bits and pieces at a time, it could work really well for you. This was released originally in 1953 to 55, and it's directed by Duke Goldstone, written by Milt Kahn and George Tibbles, with a cast including the wonderful Betty White as Elizabeth, with Delmore as Elizabeth's husband, Alvin. And some episodes have other characters, and some don't. For many episodes, it's just Elizabeth and Alvin, and it actually starts off with a narrator voiced by Jack Narz interacting with Elizabeth, and for maybe 30 seconds Elizabeth doesn't speak, she just mimes in response to what the narrator is saying, which I thought was a creative way to start things off. It's a good way to introduce the main topic or the main theme for that segment. And each episode lasting about 25 minutes, has 3 separate stories in them, and each one deals with a different topic, primarily a topic that affects married life or a couple's relationship. Occasionally there'll be, as I said, another character brought in, and it just deals with these little snapshots of everyday life, and I guess in theory with funny characters, but I didn't find the comedy in this to be that strong. It's not my kind of humour. It didn't really appeal to me. The performances are fantastic, but I kind of found the characters to be a little bit boring and borderline annoying sometimes. I think individually Elizabeth and Alvin are okay, but with them interacting, there was something about their relationship that felt just a little bit irritating. I didn't really like them interacting. So obviously, considering most segments feature both of them, I can't think if there was any segment that didn't have both of them. That's obviously a bit of a problem. Not enough for me to not watch it, but certainly enough for me to dislike quite a large chunk of it. And with me not really finding it to be very funny either, that's a bit of an issue. There was only one segment where I genuinely thought, this is really funny and it's really appealing to me. And I don't know I don't know which episode it is because I have no idea which order it's meant to be, but it's the episode where somebody comes to the house to take down notes about the dog, but they think they're writing about a different dog, and the information they're writing down doesn't match up, so they think Elizabeth is lying, and even describing it doesn't sound that funny, but actually I really thoroughly enjoyed that one. And there were a few others here and there that I thought were not too bad, but for the most part, I was just kind of going through the motions with watching them. The comedy didn't really appeal to me, and the main reason why I didn't binge watch it, though, is because I'm just not a huge fan of the lack of continuing stories, the lack of emotionally investing in those narratives. There was never any point, because of the structure, where I got to the end of the episode and thought, well, I need to watch one more to find out what happens next. Whereas with many comedy TV shows, with many sitcoms, as this is, that's what keeps them going. That's what makes people tune in week after week. And I don't think there was any other point where I got to the end and thought, I cannot wait to watch another one. Even the ones that I thought were relatively enjoyable, it was still one is enough. Maybe I'll watch one tomorrow. Even with the dog one, though I do think the dog one was quite late in my journey. I think that one was towards the end. Also, I should point out, I think I didn't see all of them. I think a couple of them are not available, they're missing, or I'm not sure, but I think there were a couple that I missed out. So maybe there are a few that are very, very funny and I didn't get to see them, but I did watch the majority of them, and I just think the topics themselves are quite boring. And I do feel like for the most part that's kind of the point. They are meant to be mundane, everyday life, and finding the comedy in that everyday. And as a concept, I don't hate that. But because the characters are quite annoying, sometimes, not always, the topics are not that interesting, and there's nothing to really emotionally invest in, it's not very good, in my opinion. And I think there's a reason why this kind of narrative approach isn't that common. Even as we travel just a few decades down the line, we're not seeing this kind of storytelling that frequently. And certainly, I'm not saying it doesn't exist today, but it's not common at all. And I do think the reason sitcoms are successful is because people desperately need to know what happens next. You need to give people a reason to tune in. And as I said at the end of every episode, I didn't really have a reason to tune in other than I needed to get through it so I could discuss it. The set designs are nice. I like the design of the house. The space is used really well. It's a decent size, but it also feels quite homely and lived in. It's not just a bare empty space with rooms that are way bigger than they should be. It feels believable, but also a decent size. We occasionally get some other locations. I think maybe I want to say 5 or 6 times. I didn't count, but occasionally we get another location. But honestly, I didn't find the same location to be repetitive. I never got sick of that as an environment. Maybe if I was enjoying it more, that would be something I'd look for to find other aspects of comedy. But because I wasn't really loving it too much, I guess the repeated set wasn't really that much of an issue. And they do utilise different rooms in the garden, so I think they made a really good use of the space. The performances are very good. It is unfortunate that I don't like the characters. But for me, the biggest issue, aside from the fact that I didn't really find it funny, is that there was no emotional connection, no emotional response. I did not care about the characters, and there was no opportunity to care about what's going to happen next because there's no continuity. To the point where it doesn't really matter the order in which you watch them. So while I may not have started with the first one, I don't know, I might have done, it doesn't matter at all. Do I recommend it? Only if you're a fan of Betty White or Del Moore and you want to watch their performances. I mean, by all means, give it a go anyway, see what you think of it. Maybe the format will appeal to you more than it did to me. Maybe the comedy style will appeal to you more than it did to me. And maybe you won't find the characters to be as annoying either. But for me, there were just, unfortunately, too many elements that did not appeal to me. And it's a shame because I love most of Betty White's shows. There are a few more I still need to watch. But of the ones that I've seen, I've generally thoroughly enjoyed them, or at least found them to be quite amusing. But unfortunately for me, Life with Elizabeth just didn't really work very well.